Hi everyone, welcome to my craft room. Yvonne here. Today we're going to make this fun, beautiful card using the Joseph's Coat technique. We're going to use the stamp set Forever Fern, and let's get started. Start off, here's what you're going to need. You're going to need basic black cardstock, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. A piece of Highland Heather Cardstock, 4 inches by 5 1/4. That's going to make that layer. Whisper white, which is what you're going to make this layer with, 4 1/4 by 5.5, and I make it the full size so that my fingers and things on the edge I'll be able to trim off if they show up. You're going to need a scrap of Highland Heather to cut out the die for the sentiment, and a piece of Coastal Cabana to punch out this piece here. Okay, Highland Heather, Coastal Cabana, and Granny Apple Green, and Magenta Madness. What you're going to do is put down a piece of scrap paper, your Whisper White, 4 1/4 by 5.5. And we'll start off with Highland Heather. Okay, starting with the Highland Heather, I'm going to sponge the paper, and make sure when you're sponging this you give dark, good quality to that, so that when you overdo it with the black ink over top, your color doesn't disappear. So nice strong colors so that you'll be able to see it through when you do the embossing. Second color I'm going to do is Coastal Cabana, and I'm doing the same thing, and I'm just putting in a random pattern because I don't want the colors to show up in decided stripes. So you do whatever you like. And sorry for the wiggly table, didn't realize it was happening. Okay, third color, Magenta Madness. And if it overlaps, you get this beautiful different color kind of tone mixture, so it looks really great when you're all finished. This reminds me of as a kid, you know, when you did those sheets with the wax crayons with all the colors. Okay, so fourth color is a Granny Apple Green, and I'm doing the same thing, just making sure I really get good strong color in there so that you'll be able to see it later. Okay, once that's done, you're going to have to let it dry for a while, so put that aside. And next step is to prepare your label. So that's the lovely, Label Me Lovely punch. And I'm just punching that out of Coastal Cabana. And out of the Highland Heather embossing buddy first. And we're going to heat emboss this with black heating embossing powder. So I'm going to stamp the sentiment from the Forever Fern Stamp Set in Versamark ink. And then using a black embossing powder, sprinkle it on. And gosh, really put a piece of scrap paper underneath. It saves a lot of mess. That powder seems to travel in all kinds of places. Okay, with the tweezer, because the paper gets very hot, and just using my heat tool now, I'm heating that up. It takes a little while to heat up. It melts the powder, and you get this shiny, raised black. Looks marvelous. Now with the stitched shapes dies, and the circle one, and it's the second from smallest. And I use my Big Shot and cut that out. And with the magic of camera, there it is. Putting some dimensionals on the back. And there's your label done. Okay, so that feels pretty dry now, and you just feel it and you can tell whether it still has, if it has a damp feeling, don't, it's too soon. Now you need your embossing buddy again to run over that. And with my stamp apparatus, I've used the stamp set Forever Fern. I've placed the stamps just sort of randomly, and you know what you can use, if you don't have Forever Fern, use that whatever stamp set you like, and I'm just kind of centering it there. Okay, looks great. So now ink up with the Versamark ink. And make sure you get good, because that's a fine distinctive stamp, you want to make sure you get that ink in so that you really get the detail when you heat emboss it. Okay, hold it down for a few seconds. Can you see that? You can just barely see how it shows up. So now I'm taking from that stamp set, I don't know what you call them, little spotches, and I'm using with Versamark. I'm just going to work those around the edge because that's going to show up with more color afterwards. Now with the camera and the light, I can't see everything that can't see the whole area because of the light. So I'm just going to take it out, and see, this is why you want to have a little bit of edge paper there in case your fingers get on it. There, and you can see I'm just getting those spots that I've missed. Okay. Now with another scrap piece of paper underneath, I got my clear embossing powder out, and just sprinkle that powder. Be generous with the powder, make sure it gets on, shake it, tap it off, turn it around, and just get the other end. And you'll see it's sort of a fine, dull white powder, and you know you've got it all. Okay, now with my heat tool again, heat it up, and you'll start to see where the embossing powder is melting. It gets that shiny, clear. Okay, now here's the fun part. Tuxedo Black Memento ink with some plastic gloves. I highly recommend. You just take your black stamp pad and you're just going to rub it over the top of the paper. And just and make sure you get a nice crisp black background is what you want. So, you know, just keep rubbing it. Of course, you got a piece of scrap paper underneath. Boy, oh boy, you can have a real mess if you don't. Just work it in really well. You can already see what's going to happen here. Okay, next step is after you've done this, you don't want to wait too long. You could just get a piece of rag cloth, and you're going to gently wipe off the ink off of the embossing part, trying not to touch the paper. So really a light touch, because you don't want to rub the black off of your cardstock, just off the embossing part. And keep moving your rag around, because if you notice, it'll be really black. So just keep folding your cloth, make sure it's clean, and just keep rubbing that black ink off the embossing, and see how it starts to become really shiny and awesome. Isn't that beautiful? And it's just so darn pretty the way it is. Don't really want to cover it up with anything. So you can see the more you've stamped and the more your colors are kind of free on the paper, the more fun effects you get. If you like a striped effect, try it out. Go for it. It's really cool. If you want the random color, make sure to apply your colors randomly. This Forever Fern Stamp Set is just beautiful. Okay, so I'm just going it over again just to see if I've missed anything. Just run your finger over to see if you have any black on your finger when you do that, then you haven't taken it all off. Just make sure it's nice and clean. Now that paper, of course, the ink on the cardstock will dry. So you just have to be gentle while you're handling up, but you can continue on and assemble a card. Okay, so the Highland Heather piece, you see you need to trim that cardstock, and that cleans up the edges. And I want about 1/8 of an inch strip I'm going to put on the inside of the card. So on one side, I'm going to give myself about 1/8 of an inch there. On the other side, then I'll trim it down to the exact size that I need. And all of the dimensions and supplies and everything will be down below. So don't panic, you don't have to write this all down right now. Okay, so trimming that off. And the same with the bottom. There, just bring it over so you can see it a little better. It's 5 1/8 there is what you're doing. Okay, now just with some Tombow, you can put that layer on. And I love using a Tombow for this because you have some wiggle room, you can move it around to get it perfectly lined up. I have trouble lining straight things up. I have a little bit of a curve to my eye. So, okay, so using a Coastal Cabana ribbon, about 5 1/2 inches, I'm going to put that across. I'm using some Stampin' Seal on the back just to adhere the ribbon. Okay, I'm going to put it on the card front now. Some Stampin' Dimensionals. And pop it on the card. There you have it. Isn't that gorgeous? Okay, for the sentiment on the inside, I used the stamp set Best Year, Happy Birthday to You, and stamping on Whisper White with the black Memento ink. And that 1/4 inch strip, or 1/8 inch strip, sorry, from the cardstock, I'm just plying along that edge just to give it some color and a continuity from the front. Just adds a nice little touch to it, I think. Okay, so of course it was 5 1/2, so you need to trim off the edges. Just take with your paper snips and trim off. Okay, and with some Tombow, pop that on. And there you have it. I hope you tried this card. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, give me a thumbs up down below, and you'll notice I'll have all of the information down below that used to make this card. So happy stamping. Thanks for visiting my craft room. Forgot to mention the embellishments, the 2020 2022 in color enamel dots. Putting on the front 2 of those, the Magenta Madness and 2 Just Jade, just to super finish off the card. And again, thanks for visiting my craft room. Yvonne here signing off, and all of the information down below. Hope you tried this card. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.